Welcome everybody, this is the Microsoft 365 platform community call, which happens every single week, Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So my name is Vesa Juvonen, I'm a program manager in the Microsoft 365 platform side of the house, helping with the open source community stuff and a lot of other stuff as well. Now, today we will have a busy agenda again, related on, and we have 3 demos in this call, like we typically do, unless there's a explicit ask to do a bit longer demo. So we're trying to put always 3 demos in this call to have enough, let's say, variance, enough topics to cover. But we'll start, of course, with the latest updates and news and a quick update on other things, what's happening around the Microsoft 365 platform. We'll take the group picture in together mode after that, and then we move to the actual demos and stars of today. And so we start with Rabeb, and she's going to talk about the future of self-service Microsoft Graph SDKs. So that's going to be an interesting update on what's happening on that side. And then we have our content type crew, Shreya, Ravi, Swapnil, and Karan, talking about the Graph API support for new content types, sync enhancements. So what's happening there on the Graph side. So there's a significant level of investments on additional APIs and how you can use them, and the team is going to talk about that. And then as the last demo of today, I'm going to do a preview on the upcoming list extensibility options within the SharePoint Framework 1.15. So there's going to be a new version, preview version of SharePoint Framework 1.15 relatively soon. And as part of that preview version, there's going to be options to start building list extensibility for SharePoint and for Microsoft List. And I'm going to do a live demo on that one and show what that means in practice. Now, before we actually get started on the demos, again, a few typical slides, which we always have here. First of all, just to recap all of the assets, what we have available. So we do have 2 different YouTube channels. We have the official Microsoft 365 YouTube developer YouTube channel, where we have official videos coming from Microsoft and Cloud Advocates and many others. And then we have our community video channel, where we have all of the community call recordings, community demos, and all of those getting published there as well. And nowadays we are releasing roughly 2 to 3 demos and videos every single day on that YouTube channel if you're interested in Microsoft 365 topics. We do have a lot of open source assets available, and the idea here is that you should not start from scratch. You will most likely find a sample which will show you how to get started or enable you to be more productive as a starting point. And as finding those samples might be a bit difficult, we then also have sample galleries. So we built this portal concept on top of those GitHub offerings, where you can then more easily find specific samples what you're looking for. And if you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, luckily we got you covered. So it's actually one URL, which is AKMS M365 PMP, from where you can find all of the latest information and links to the all of this SDKs and documentation related on Microsoft 365. Now, a few updates and typical slides just to remind, because we always have new people joining on this course every single week. Please register to Microsoft 365 developer program. You will get a free E5 developer tenant, and as long as you use it for developer usage, there's some instrumentation in place. It will renew automatically in every single 90 days. So that tenant is yours, and as long as you use it for development purposes and debugging and testing things, it will be detected, and then it will automatically renew for the following 90 days and the following 90 days and so on. If you, by the way, if your tenant does get expired at some point, then just re-register and try to get a new tenant and contact the people if there's any challenges on that. But this is really a way for all of the developers find a location where they can do development. We also have a lot of training material available, free training material available for Microsoft 365 platform topics, built by official and professional trainers and people who do this for a living. So there's a lot of material for Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Graph, for SharePoint Framework, and many other topics as well. Now, I mentioned the samples and the sample galleries, and finally, it seems to be that this week we're going to finally get the blog post out that we're finally announcing the unified Microsoft 365 sample gallery to be available. We can find all of the samples across all of the different products and what we have in the Microsoft 365. So from one location, you can search for samples for Microsoft Graph, for Office, for Microsoft Teams, for SharePoint, SharePoint Framework, Microsoft Lists, and even scripts. So, and right now we have more than 1,040 samples available from this one centralized location. So trying to make it as super easy as possible for you to get access on all of the awesome assets which are available for you to take advantage. Now, as you're wondering then, okay, I found the sample. how would I get started on the sample? Or maybe I would like to contribute to the samples. How would I get started? And that's why we have the Sharing is Caring initiative. And live directly from Las Vegas, I think David is going to take this slide.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vesa. Yes, live from the Microsoft 365 conference in Vegas. So, friends, the Sharing is Caring initiative is here to provide you that hands-on guidance. If you would like to begin contributing to the community, but you're not quite sure how or where to start, maybe perhaps you don't have you have not done your first pull request, or you'd like to present on one of the community calls and you're not quite sure if you're ready, we're here to help you. These are live hands-on sessions that'll provide you guidance on how to accomplish this and all of the things that you would like to do within the community. Please don't hesitate to reach out. They are all free safe space opportunities. We don't record them. You'll be able to work with members of Microsoft and other MVPs in the community to get more involved, and we would absolutely love to see all the awesome work you're doing. Now, additionally, we have our AMAs. These are ever popular. They're with the product groups. They're with members of the initiatives within PNP. They're great opportunities for you to ask any and all questions and collaborate as well. We have an upcoming AMA on Viva Connections extensibility for adaptive card extensions, and we're just getting that date set for the end of April here at the end of this month. So look for that available to register for in the next couple of days. Again, safe space. We'd love to see everyone get involved. aka.ms/sharing is caring. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And hopefully Las Vegas has fun for the upcoming days as well. I was debating myself if I would join, but then decided to skip it. And now it's snowing in Helsinki, and it's a bit of a strange decision. But anyway, so during on going through the typical assets which are available, and we also have two different podcasts available for you if you're interested on the latest around the Microsoft 365 development. The first one being the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast, hosted by Jeremy Thake and Paul Schaffelin. And the latest podcast on this one is from 14th of March, together with Tom Morgan, talking about Microsoft Teams development and what can be done there. The second podcast is our Microsoft 365 PNP Weekly podcast, hosted by me and Waldek Mastercard, where we talk about also the latest news, and also we have a visitor in this podcast and talking about the career options and the specialties, whatever the person is actually doing for living. So it's either a Microsoft employee or an MVP typically as a visitor within this podcast. Now, for the latest news, it seems to be that as we had the MVP Summit last week, and there's numerous conferences actually this week, there was not that many news happening within the last week. So first of all, on the developer blog side, we had a news related on Get Inspired with Microsoft 365 apps at Microsoft Tech Days, and this is a promotional article related on a Tech Days live session on the 5th of May. It is a 2-hour session where we have actually me and Waldek hosting the session, and then we have 5 or 6 different MVPs talking about the Microsoft 365 development. So we're actually building hands-on a solution, starting from one area, creating a bot, creating a personal application, creating Power BI extensibility and SharePoint Framework extensibility and Viva Connection extensibility to a single solution. So that's going to be a really cool session on the 5th of May, 2 hours. Now, the second great news from last week was the What's New in Microsoft Teams, and these are really great monthly summaries related on what has been announced around the Microsoft Teams, or, well, SharePoint does the same thing as well. So you can actually catch up easily on, these are all of the greatest new features from an end user perspective, administrative perspective, platform perspective, and so on. So really, really great summaries. On the platform side of the Microsoft Teams, we also have our weekly update on the documentation side of the house. And Surpi is the one covering this too. Surpi, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Vesa. I'd walk you through the platform and documentation updates. So let's start with the platform updates on the left side. We have device permissions for the browser, which is now G8. Teams app that require device permissions such as camera or microphone access now require users to manually grant permissions at a per app level in the web browser. Previously, the browser handled how to grant access permissions, but now these permissions are handled in Microsoft Teams. This has implications on how you design your application and if they require these permissions in the browser. So, and the documentation link is given at the bottom. Please go and explore. Now let's move to the doc updates on the right. We've tried this experiment to introduce interactive content. Using this option, we will not have multiple pages and only relevant information will appear on the page. The right-hand side in this article section will also get updated based on your selection. Let us know how this experience is. We've updated this for 2 articles as of now, which is create a personal tab and a channel tab. You can find the links to the documentation here. So these were the platform updates. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please post on aka.ms Teams platform feedback. The link is available in the footer. You could also follow us on Twitter and configure to the RSS feeds to get regular platform updates. Thank you, and over to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Sorpif, on that one. Now, quick update also on our weekly series, Learn from the Community. We have a new video available. So this is a series where Bob German or Iga Bass, who are both cloud advocates, talk about solution design and different solutions which have been built within the Microsoft 365. And the latest session was with Capriel, Sophie, and Oliver on a Teams App Dev Challenge winners, and the solution was My Serious Game brings high quality training in the Microsoft Teams with Ed Mill. So that's a really, really interesting discussion and a video on what they built, how they built it, technology, and the reason and business value on that. Now, one thing what I want to always promote here is that if you have built something which you want to actually tell a story on how did you build and what's available, this doesn't have to be open source. Please, please, please fill in at AKMS, share your story is the URL we mentioned in the footer of the slide. Bob and Ika would be highly interested in having a discussion with you. Now, something which we also already promoted is the Tech Day. So again, this is coming from the 5th of May. There's going to be a 2-hour session where we're going to build a really, really, really cool, comprehensive solution touching many, many, many Microsoft 365 development platform topics. So more details on that one in HTTPS NKMS Tech Days M365. Related on also on what's happening and what's coming, the Microsoft Build is coming. So the agenda is not yet public. We are currently planning the Microsoft Build agenda, or let's say locking down the plans internally and the sessions. Microsoft Build will be virtual this year again, and it's happening on May 24th to 26th. And registration is coming soon at mybuild.microsoft.com. So really, really great opportunity to hear the latest around Microsoft 365 development and much, much, much more, because of course there's a lot of Azure sessions on Microsoft Build as well. Now, before we go to the actual stars of the day and demos, let's do a quick picture time. So let me actually adjust the settings and recordings. So if you are willing, we would like to have capture a GIF animation out of the together mode. Whenever the together mode selection starts in here, let's do the white one this time. And we can see the people. We have 50 seats in the room. So there's one ghost person on the 3rd row and the top. And let's not wait a second. Let's fill in the room. Let's fill in the room. I will put my camera on as well if I can actually get myself in the room. But it starts looking quite full, which is great actually. There we go. And let me press the recording. And let's do some hand waving, everybody. So thanks everybody for joining. Awesome to have you in a call once again. Really, really great. And thank you for volunteering for taking this together mode pictures. Seb is unfortunately not being an example today. He'll be back within a few weeks. But well, Todd is doing a good job on the middle. Thank you for that. Also, full graphic GIF animation out of that. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. And there's some funny faces. Todd, it's enough. It's enough. Thank you for that. Cool. And then we actually go to the stars of today. I heard some rumors that Rabeb, you have some magic to actually show us as part of the first demo of today. So we'll start with Rabeb and then go to the content type graph API support, and I will take the last demo spot of today.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I think Vincent put some pressure on me on Twitter. I saw that magic thing. Right. Let's start by, I'm going to be brave and share my entire screen because I'm going to be jumping between few things.
Yep, that's always the easiest way to do that.
Cool. So I'm going to very quickly start with some few slides. I know we have too many demos, so I'm going to be as quick as possible here. Hello, everyone. My name is Rabeb, and I am a senior PM with the Microsoft Graph team. I'm super excited to be here today because I actually have a few new things that I want to share with you. And also it's great to show how different of our tools are coming together very nicely. So everything is like working together. It's like pieces of one puzzle. And I'm going to be showing you how everything is working together. But first of all, just a little bit of context to how we are where we are today. As Microsoft Graph been evolving and as we keep adding new features, it became very apparent for us that we are having few challenges generating our SDKs. It was taking too long to support new languages or adding any new features from Microsoft Graph. And the tech stack that we were using were fairly painful. We made few promises to you, we made few promises to the community, and then either we couldn't keep our promises or it was way too long to deliver simply because of these challenges. We thought Autorest would solve the issues for us, but unfortunately, Autorest did not scale to the size of the Microsoft Graph APIs. So with all these challenges in mind and with the learning that we got with Autorest, we went back and we went back to work and we focused and we decided to create a new SDKs generator with the goal. We wanted something fast to support new languages. We wanted to support new languages within weeks, not waiting for months for that to happen. And we wanted it to be very fast to incorporate new Microsoft Graph features across all our languages. Like we really needed to keep up with all the new features that we have. And we wanted something that is fast to generate an SDK. So that's what we've been working on. And today I'm happy to announce that this new SDKs generator already exists. It is in community preview. Please go and try it. And remember, it's still a preview, so I'm sure there will be a few bumps and things that are not perfect yet, but your feedback is very important to us to make this better and to fix all the things. As I mentioned, Kyoto is a new SDKs generator. It's a lightweight, low maintenance, open API-based code generator for our SDKs, and it solves the problems that we set to solve. It is fast enough for us to generate our SDKs. On top of solving these problems, these challenges for us, Kyoto also opens up a whole set of new opportunities and scenarios. Because it's based on any open API or CSDL described API, literally you could use it with anything. We do already, actually, some of the MVPs went ahead and played with Kyoto with different APIs. It wasn't even the Microsoft Graph APIs, and then they had a bunch of issues for us to fix. You don't do this, and you can't do this. So, so that's quite nice to see. The other thing is with Kyoto, literally you can create customized and tailored SDKs to your exact needs, because all you need is the APIs that you need in your project. So potentially the size of these SDKs is also going to be fairly smaller than the prepackaged SDK, if that's what you need. So please go and try it. Kyoto is a Swahili word, by the way, for anyone who's curious, and it means a nest. And to prove to you that it's all really real and it all works, I'm gonna do a demo. For this demo, so the end goal of the demo is to generate a .NET SDK based on Kyoto. For that, I'm gonna need to do few steps and go through our tooling. The first stop is going to be Graph Explorer. And I hope you are familiar with Graph Explorer. Graph Explorer is our developer tool that allows you to learn and test with the Graph APIs, among other things that you can do there. So with Graph Explorer, I would like to export a Postman collection. So I'll go to Graph Explorer, get a postman collection for the endpoints that I need for my demo. And then I am going to use another one of our tools. It's called HIDI. And HIDI is a command line tool that allows processing of open API documents. So things like transformations on open API documents, let's say you need to go from V3 to V2 or vice versa, YAML to JSON and vice versa. It also HIDI allows to validate your open API documents as well. So I'm going to use HIDI, and I'm going to use the Postman collection that I will get from Graph Explorer. And then that's how I'm going to get my open API document. With that open API document, I can ask Kyoto to generate an SDK for me. This is the first stop, Graph Explorer. Very recently, I think 2 days ago, we released a new feature with the Graph Explorer. It's called Resource Explorer. It's this tab here, Resources. And as the name implies, with Resource Explorer, you can explore and navigate every single resource and endpoint available on Graph. As you can see on this tree here, you can see everything. It is what's available on V1 by default, but if you need to check what's on beta, you can also do that. And then that's what would allow me to export a Postman collection. So the resources that I need for my demo are endpoints related to users. So I'm going to use the search and say, look for users, and then I'm going to see everything and anything that has users in it. But I am going all the way here. So I go to users, and I can see I need this get. So I'm going to click on here, and it says add to collection. And then let's add post, for example. So this is all I need. So my collection is fairly small. As you can see here, I have the 2 items that I added. I'm not going to remove anything. And I'm just going to say, please download this collection for me. So as you can see here, my collection has been downloaded to my machine. And then if I grab my command line tool, now, as you can see, the name of the collection is too long. So previously, I renamed the collection to something much easier, and I put it in the right folder for me to work with it. So that's the first step done. We do have now a Postman collection. Now, what I need from HIDI, because we do have the Graph Open API document, but that document is too big for my needs. All I need is literally just the users. So I'm gonna ask HIDI to transform that document for me, or as we say, slice the document for me. So I'm gonna say, HIDI, can you transform this Open API document, which is hopefully this one, and I want you to transform it, filtering. So we're going to do some sort of filtering using that Postman collection, which is users collection.json. So I'm saying, I don't need everything in there. Can you please do filter based on the collection and give me a much smaller document? And then for my output, let's say users output. And if I do this, hopefully this should work anytime now. Yes. So and go here, and I can see that was created, and you can even see the time. It literally just happened now. I'm gonna do another thing just to make sure that that document is okay. So I'm gonna say HIDI validate my document, which is users output.yaml, and then HIDI is telling me, yes, you have one, like the path to the items, it's users, 2 operations, get and post, and everything else that is available there. We can even go if I click on the document, it will open, and I can see that it is indeed an open API document. So that is the step number 2. So that's Hidi, who provided me with a much smaller open API document. So now I can go and generate the SDK that I need. Prior to the session, I created a console app. That's where I will be using my SDK. So I did create the app, added all the packages that I need, etc. on there. And now, so if I go, let me just go to the right. So this is where my app is. And I'm going to put this in here so you can see it. So what I'm going to say is Kyoto. And I'm going to feed Kyoto. I also put the document in the right folder. So I'm going to feed Kyoto the exact same document, which is users output, right? Users output dot YAML. And then I want my class to be user API client. Oh, I did forget to mention that the app that I created is user client. That's why there is user client in there. And then I'm going to say my namespace is user client and then API client. Now, if I hit enter, it should add my new SDK to my application. But because I did that earlier, I'm intrigued what would happen if I click twice, whether it will figure out it's already there or it would just replace it. Because I do that, I'm not going to risk it. So this is like how I would generate that. If I go to my app here, so this is my app. I needed, of course, like a client ID, etc., a few scaffolding things. So I did all of that. And let's say I want to see my users. You will notice that here, within my client, the only thing that I have is users. So I don't have everything on the Graph API. It's because the SDK that I created only have users. So I can say just I only need my users here, for example. And basically that's really it. That's what I wanted to show you. I'm going to click on this and see what happens. Oh, maybe just replace it without doing anything. And you can see how quick it is. So yeah, so this is the demo. This is the few new things that we have. I have few links in here for you to try. Please go and try Kyoto. It's still in preview, so I'm sure there are some few things for us to fix. It would we would really appreciate it if you can help us point out to those things to fix. Thank you.
Awesome, Robert. Really, really, really cool stuff. And it is absolutely brilliant that we can kind of increase the performance by reducing the API surface, which is automatically generated. Because just for a reminder for everybody, again, on this call, there are tens of thousands of APIs in Microsoft Graph, which is like it should be. Everything should be accessed through the Microsoft Graph. And it's brilliant, simple, and unified way of accessing information in Microsoft 365. Now, related on Microsoft Graph and one of the new features and APIs, let's actually jump on the content type side of the house. And content type, a hub and content type is something related on SharePoint. And we have Shreya. I guess, Shreya, you'll start the presentation and we'll move from there. So let's wait and let's not waste any more time for me babbling here. Just take it away.
Before I start, that was a really great presentation, Robert. It was really cool stuff there. I'll just quickly share my screen as well.
Yep.
Hey everyone, I am Shreya and I look into the SharePoint taxonomy and content type. And with me today, we have the engineering counterpart, Karan, Swapnil and Ravi joining us to discuss about content type sync. I'll just briefly go through the agenda that we have. I would want to give a overview around what is the new content type sync, what are we trying to achieve with this new content type sync, then give you the new content type sync demo through the UX, just to get an understanding about how much have we improved with our new timer job. And then I'll hand it over to Swapnil, who will give a brief overview around the new CT-Sync Graph APIs that we have launched. We already have content type related Graph APIs, but this is additional capability that would enable developers to basically sync content types from the hub to particular sites. Then we have some helpful links and finally feedbacks and any questions that you might have, and we are happy to incorporate that. All right, so what is basically the new content type sync that we're talking about? Now, initially, what we really had was the push everywhere model. That means any admin or any user who created a content type in the content type hub or the gallery, whenever that content type got created, a timer job used to run who used to take all these new content types and copy it to all sites in that organization. Now, the problem with that was twofold. One is, what if there are many content types added? So that will lead to a scaling issue. Or what if there are so many sites in the organization that syncing would take time? So naturally, we face the continuous issue where the sync would take a lot of time, it would error out, it would time out, leading to a lot of escalations and overall bad performance. Now, we are happy to announce that now we have a different type of content type sync that we call pull as needed. Now, what does that mean? You call the content type that you need, and we will make it available right away. What does that mean? Whenever an admin will create a new content type in the content type hub, that content type after publishing will be immediately available for use in any sites in that organization. Only when the user will apply that content type to that particular site will we pull that content type particular to the site and make it available. That way, the problem of scale and availability is gone and content types are rightly available whenever you want to use it in your particular site. With this all knowledge by far, I'll just show you how does that work in action from the SharePoint Admin Center. I'll go quickly here. All right, so I think most of you are familiar. This is the content type gallery that exists in the SharePoint Admin Center. I'll just quickly hit a refresh and here I go create a content type. So I'll just name it demo content type 1. And I will use an existing category. I'll use content type. And just to make it interesting, let me not, yeah. So this is a new content type that I'm going to create. It's going to get created. This is getting created in the content type gallery or the content type hub. And just for, for the fun of it, I'll also create a new column, which is I give the name of test column 1 and I save it. Right. And I go on to publish this. So this is happening from the content type gallery. And I publish this. Now, as soon as I publish this, right, this is another demo SharePoint site that I've created. Here, if I go on to content type and I see here demo content type is immediately available. And also just to check the content, we have name, title, and the test column 1 that I created. So it is immediately available and then I can click apply. The moment when this content type is going to get added to this SharePoint site. Perfect. Now it is quickly available here. I can easily create documents. So if we do not have all the content types that I don't need and only have the one that I need. Also, I'll just show quickly another flow where what if I create a new site column? My requirements changed and I create a new site column here and I save it. And obviously, since I changed it, I need to republish it. Okay, I think this is changed. I'll just quickly check. Name more content type. Yeah, we have test column 2 here and it is also republished just for confirmation. Perfect. Now, what if I go to this another library in this SharePoint site and it does not have this content type added? I just go on to content type and I should be able to see demo content type here. When I go to demo content type, voila, we have test column 2 as well added here, which is the latest update that I did. And here it is, I'm adding it. All right. Now, what about the content type, the content that I added before that update? This documents received that content type before I made that update, right? So if I create a document from this content type, suppose I create this document or docs. If I go to this property and I check it, the test call to is also available here. So once you have applied that content type to a particular library, updates to the content type will come almost real time through the timer job right away for the sites that has already pulled the content type. And for new content type, the recent changes will be available to apply. And just to give you another flavor, if you go to site settings and go to site content type, we also have. All right, so here, since the content type that we added was demo content type, if I make a search here, you would see this demo content type is in a readable format, and that is taken from the content type hub. So that way you can also see the latest updates that are there for this content type in the site level content type gallery as well. Now with this demo from the UX side, I'll just quickly also hand over to Swapnil for the demo of the APIs.
So hi everyone, I'll be going through all the graph APIs that we have added as part of this CT sync scenario. So the first API is the get compatible hub content type API, which returns the content types that can be added to a target site or list from the content type hub site. So I'll just quickly. Yeah, so here you can see there's a content type that is published in content type hub test CT1, and this can be added to a list, in this case documents list in the target site collection. So in order to add that content type, then I'll move on to the second API, which is the add copy from content type hub API, where the content type ID is the required parameter request, body parameter for the request. And once I send out a request, this will basically this request can work both synchronously and asynchronously based on the content type that is being pulled. So in this case, the content type is being pulled synchronously, and you can see that this content type has been added to the list. And if you navigate to the list, you can see that content type will be available to use, as Shreya showed that earlier. Now, in case of async request, the response would be the response body would be empty, but in headers there will be one location header where you will get the operations API to track the state of that sync operation or the pull operation that is happening from the content type hub. So this operation currently takes at least 10 minutes to complete. So anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, that should be enough to pull the content type to a target site. And once the operation is triggered, the starting state would be something like this, like not started. And once it is successful, you'll get a succeeded status in that operations API URL response. And a quick note on permissions. So for all of these APIs, you need at least sites.manage.all permissions for them to work. That's it from my side. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Shreya, do we go back on your screen still? I think you had some slides still to.
Yeah, I just had some helpful links to share. I'll just copy paste all these links and I'll just share it in the chat for everyone's consumption. I think that was it. Vesa, thank you for the opportunity for making us present here. Thank you.
Excellent. And good discussion on the chat. Let's certainly follow up on the questions. Thank you on that one. It's great to see these improvements, because this way we can centrally control and manage those content types properly finally. So content type, being an old school 15 years in SharePoint, the content type half was a great idea, but it always had small flaws. So this is finally making it work. So really, really good. So excellent work there. So let me go and share my screen and just to recap on the demo side of the house. So we had RubApp, really great on the self-service Microsoft Graph SDKs. Thank you, Sreya and Swapnil on the other side. And I'm going to do a quick review, preview, not review, preview. Big difference on the upcoming list extensibility options with SharePoint Framework 1.15. So let's actually move forward from there. So I have a few slides here and I'll do a quick demo as well. Now, on the SharePoint Framework side of the house, so moving on this demo, SharePoint Framework is really intended to be and it is the easiest way to build your enterprise solutions for Microsoft 365. It has the automatic single sign-on, automatic hosting, which is a big thing, so you don't have to worry about Azure hosting or any of those configurations, plus operational cost and maintenance there, and then consistent dev experience and using industry standard web stack tooling. Now, the name is a bit confusing, but like Jeff Deeper loves to say, SharePoint is the content and application services for Microsoft Teams and for the broader Microsoft 365. So we are looking into potentially, again, naming the SharePoint framework. There is an ongoing discussions on that one internally, not to change the tooling, not to change the framework, but renaming the SharePoint framework potentially again to address the new scope. Because if you think about what we can build with SharePoint framework, it's not just about SharePoint. You can, with SharePoint framework, you can build web parts, extensions, and web apps for SharePoint Online. You can also build Viva connection cards, and in the Viva connection side of the house, you can also take advantage of web parts and extensions, and you can also build different experiences in the Microsoft Teams. And we're all the time committed on making the experience better and better across all of these products and potentially even more. There's an interesting future dimensions and discussions on this. Now, one of the classic requests related on SharePoint Framework for many years is that, well, please, Microsoft, allow us to build or develop custom modern forms with custom edit experience. So as part of the SharePoint Framework initial release back in 2017, and after that we've been having, 20 releases already, consistently a few times in a year. Quite often people started asking that, well, I would like to have an extensibility options and editing experiences in the list level. As part of the 1.13 release of SharePoint, 1.3 version of SharePoint Framework, we introduced field level customizers, but those only works when you are viewing a field value in a list, not when you're editing a field value in a list. And that was kind of not an optimal experience. So one of the number one requests, do we have the number of votes? Yes, we do. One of the number one requests in the Microsoft Feedback Center related on SharePoint has been this item with 2,579 votes. This picture taken today, and it's probably is a bit more than that nowadays. So it's in top 5 of the most requested capabilities within the SharePoint, which is kind of cool that we're finally addressing this. And yes, it's about time. There are certain internal reasons and discussions why this took a while, but we are finally getting there. Now, how will this actually work? The first version will be released as part of the 1.15, and 1.15 preview, which is coming either this week or next week, will have a preview capability of this to be available. But what we basically provide you is an option to associate an item level editing a new or a view form. So you can override the whole form any way you want. Now, just to be super clear on this is in an item level. We're going to talk about those limitations as I do the demo as well, and that is where we are starting. So basically, in the first version of this in 1.15, when 1.15 goes out, you cannot overwrite the whole list. So you will not have an option to overwrite the whole list where we will show multiple items. You can only overwrite the new edit and view individual item experiences. But what's really cool on those overriding support, as you can see on the right side, the bigger picture, is that you will have the full ownership of the whole canvas. Now, we're not going to give you, just to be super clear, setting the scenes, we're not going to give you reusable controls, we're not going to give you reusable buttons or anything like that in the first stage from the engineering side. It might be that community is building something, that's a separate discussion. But engineering will give you the full wide canvas, which you can own. You can build whatever you want here using then React, Angular, no framework, whatever is your preferred option. And that's actually really, really, really cool. You will get access on the context details in the code. So you can basically say this.context.list.id or this.context.item ID. So you know exactly which item is requested to be edited or if it's a new item that is getting created. And then as you run the save operation with the buttons which you can draw in this canvas, and then that will close the window and we will get back on the actual list experience. So that's kind of the experience here, looking and super excited to finally get things in moving. And again, it's a first step. I will come back on the follow-up steps after the demo as well. So what we will have in 1.15, and this is what we will have in 1.15 with the initial preview with this week or next week. And I'll show this one in practice. So as part of the creation of the 1.15, so I'm running a 1.15 version of 1.15 beta 5 version of the SharePoint framework here. Let's close up things. Let's zoom up the things a bit and let's close that one. And so now if I run Yo Microsoft SharePoint. So run the Yeoman generator of SharePoint framework. We will have additional options. So I'm running SPFx Yeoman generator 1.15 beta 5. It's, by the way, really cool that the version is visible finally in that window, which is great. And let's call this a new project, so that's fine. If I select now extension, we will have a new extension type here, which is the form customizer. And that's actually the one which is then targeted to be used in the view editing or new experience of an individual item in the list. And we will provide you two different templates. So let's give it a name. No framework and the React template as a starting point. But again, like with anything with SharePoint framework, you can use any JavaScript framework and libraries. We in Microsoft we use React, but that's not set the stone that you need to use React. Again, up to you. How do we want to do that? And it is also for libraries. So that's actually a good point, Russell. Thank you for calling that out. So it will work actually in the library level as well. So technically libraries are lists with files. So it's super, super close technically behind the scenes. Now, I'm not going to run the creation in here because I already created this a new solution. This has been just created before our session. So I will actually go in the Vesa Studio Code. And I will show you what we got. So, surprise, surprise, it is a typical Vesa Studio, SharePoint framework solution with a package solution. Nothing special as such. It will have the default extension available, which is then based on the new component type, which is a base form customizer. So this is the new component type, a new extension type, which we can then associate to be used in a content type level. I will come to the details on that one in a second. And then in here, in this component, it is relatively simple, at least as we start the journey. It will basically have a render option. And then again, you can do whatever you want. And you have full access on the DOM element and basically the div. And you can render whatever you want inside of that section. Full ownership, no control from our side, which gives you the full flexibility on what you want to render. As we're then closing in, if you can call on close or on save, and those are technically the ways of, okay, are we going to do saving or are we going to go closing in this case? So you would be drawing those buttons and make that happen. So relatively simple from that perspective. Jim is asking how secure it is. I'm not sure if that's related on this one, but of course, this is a SharePoint framework solution. You, as an administrator, you deploy this, you're unable to otherwise get these solutions in place. And so secure admin controlled like any SharePoint framework solution. Now, as we start then this journey and as we start testing this, let's do a quick example on how I would be doing development. In this case, I'm going to start at the terminal. In the serve JSON, we do give you a default, let's say, starting point of doing debugging. And let me be super clear. This is part of the preview experience because as part of the initial preview, modern lists are not yet aware of this new component type. And there's no API level support of setting this. So we need to do some tricks and so we can start doing development and testing, but you cannot access from the UX directly to this experience yet. That's going to be coming obviously later this spring. So that's our default structure, and that's our default debugging thing in the serve JSON. So let me go back on my develop test tenant, and let me actually create here. I didn't create a new list, or did I? Let me create a new list, and let's create a new list and blank list. Let's call this call demo. Doesn't really matter. What the name is, and let me create that. And it is, of course, a normal list. So whatever you want, you can do it with the list. You can do it with the list. So no problems with that. Now, one of the challenges as we start this journey, and again, this is mainly for the preview, not for the GA, is that we need to be able to now figure out what is the list item ID, the actual content type ID within this list to be able to associate this component in the debugging mode. And again, we will make this easier, but for me to do that, the easiest way for me to do that is to now go to the edit current view. Let me actually zoom this a bit more, and then I will go to classic advanced settings. In the advanced settings of the list, I'm going to go to advanced settings, and I will say allow management of content types, because then this gives me the visibility of the content type level. You can programmatically solve this. You can programmatically then access this information and set the information also in the content type level whenever we get the feature GA. Now, what happened with that setting is that now I have this content type section available in the list, would be the same as in libraries. And now I can actually go to the content type of item. Now, in this case, the content type ID of this particular item is visible in the URL. And this gets a bit tricky. Again, this is a preview as the first preview of 1.15. So that is the unique ID of the content type of the list item within this list. We can see that it's a list item, because it starts with a 0x0100. Those who are familiar with SharePoint content type IDs may actually recognize that, but there's a certain level of a, let's say, historical knowledge on those content types. Now, let me then go to the actual code, and as I'm doing debugging, again, Jim is referring that's the list content type ID. It is correct. That is correct. Again, terminology things are a bit debatable always, but as I'm doing debugging, I want to do debugging against that list. I'm going to say that the content type which I'm associating this item is that particular content type. So I'm able to then actually associate the code to actually working there. I need to, of course, also update the base URL. So let me go in here. Let me go to the list. Where is my call demo? There we go. So that is the content, the tenant ID. And then we are sites, and that's something what we need to update as well. So let me actually update that accordingly. We are in list demo URL. So this is then enabling me to do debugging of my code in that list item when I'm actually going to do gulp serve. Now, before I do that, and before we see that did my settings and everything work, I just wanted to call out that in the code, of course, as we are writing SharePoint framework components, you will get access on this context, and then in the context we will get access on the list instance. We will get access on item ID if the item does exist already. So those are the basically keys to do updates, and then accessing the information and all of that using the context where the object is getting executed. Cool. Now I'm going to do here gulp serve. And that's, if I can write, let me actually abort that, gulp serve. And based on now our serve.json configuration, it's going to start the default hosting, and it's going to fire the running in here. And now I have clearly a bug, which I know that I have a bug here. Now, I started that, but I can see immediately that my debugging is starting in a completely wrong list. So something is wrong. Let me go back in here. Let me go back and search the JSON. And we can see that didn't I save this? Is the saving is missing? Oh, that's what's missing. Okay, so let me add there. That's in the wrong way. I didn't update the actual site correctly. And let me actually abort that so we can see that it's starting in the right context. So one more time checking. It is a subsite collection called comms in that tenant. That looks good. That URL looks good. That was the call demo. And now if I do one more time call serve, we can actually see that the browser window starts in the context of that URL, and it feeds the right query parameters, and it starts loading the script and the debug script. And when I click that one, we still have an exception. No! Let's see, one more time. Let me see what I'm doing actually wrong here. And load debug scripts. And there we go. Now we didn't actually get any input. So let's do this one more time in here. Let me go here and write the code. Where do we have the output? And call demo, and save it. We can see runtime saved there. That's good. That's now reloaded. And now if I go back on the browser and do a refresh, we can actually see that it output the call demo text as I put output in that component. So what's basically happening now is that I'm doing runtime debugging in that context of the list, and I can start testing of how would I actually build this experience in this component using the list extensibility component. So that's kind of the story. It is something which we will get easier and better as we go through this journey. So the next 1.15 preview release will support that overriding of item level new edit and view forms, and you will need to do that debugging directly in the context, so it will not understand yet in the list level that you're associating custom component to the content type. So you need to do some level of tricks as I did in this demo, and that's the reason why we wanted to have this demo recorded as well. We'll give you a tutorial and then we'll give an improvements gradually as we move along towards the GA. In the GA, which is currently ETA, expected to release by end of Q2, so that's by end of June this calendar year. We'll give you the API level support and deployment support with Elements XML. So if you are using the site scope deployment option with SharePoint Framework Solutions. And then we are looking into having additional options for this extensibility in the future as well. And no ETA on those and no decisions at this point that they will happen. But that's it for my demo. Hopefully that's interesting. Good to have questions and comments on the slide. I'll follow up on the comments right after the call as well, because we're running a bit short on the time. Just a quick recap. We have a lot of developer community calls available. We have this weekly Tuesday call happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Then we do have other specific community calls happening on a monthly basis. And then on Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, we have a community-specific Microsoft 365 development and Power Platform and Viva Connection and SPFx calls happening as well. So at least 2 calls every single week. The recording of this call will be available within 24 hours in our Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. Do not try to get access on the recording directly in the Teams chat. You cannot access that. That would only work for the internal Microsoft employees, but that's the reason why we get it published as soon as possible in the YouTube channel. The next Microsoft 365 Platform Community Call happens on April 12th, 8 a.m. Pacific time, and all of the details again, https AKMS M365PMB. That's our Microsoft 365 Platform Community details. But that's all we're going to do today. Thank you one more time for all of the presenters. Really great stuff on the Microsoft Graph SDKs and also the content type Graph APIs. So really, really awesome to see the API surface getting involved, and like it should be. And hopefully you liked also the new steps on the SharePoint framework side of the house. But thanks everybody for this one. Let's stay in touch, keep the feedback coming, stay safe, and we'll be back with that within the next community call. Thank you. Bye-bye.